So we kind of talked a little bit briefly about how you guys met in kind of roundabout way here. And we kind of talked about how you guys started kind of realizing that there's something larger than yourselves. And you're probably told, if it's fair to say, multiple times how that you guys need to listen by the angels. And as you started listening more and more and probably believing more and more, a book was formed out of it as you guys through your journals. What's the book to you? What is it? What's the book about?
Well, I mean, the obvious step-by-step lessons to peace, but it is, I'm not even sure the word to describe the feeling of having that documentation that of everything we went through. Because you had said earlier, you had asked about what's it like when you read this book again. There's so many things. Everything was happening so fast every single day. I mean, we weren't never tired. I mean, we'd get together on weeknights and be there till 1 o'clock in the morning and get up and go to work. And everything was happening so quickly and wonderfully that there's always things that I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot about that. Either in the reading itself or in something that we talked about in our journals. And I don't know, it's like it's our baby, you know, there's this feeling that it's our baby. We lived it, we created it, and here it is. We can look at it right there on the table. And it's just, it's a special feeling that I can't describe. And, you know, for me, it's not the only book I've ever written, but it is the book of my lifetime, you know.
How about you, Barb? What's the book about?
I think that, as Teresa said, aside from the obvious, the documentation of this time period, for me, what it's done is a couple of things. There's this whole journey of healing in indigenous cultures and also in other kinds of psychology about you tell your story in order to heal. So just that, and the book starts out with the three of us telling our wrapping up our life story quickly, sort of. And every time I read that, I'm able to go back and have a healing experience because I've told my story and now I can see it in a new way from being healed. But for me, another thing that has been challenging for me is being a vision is really no fun most of the time. Someone once asked me, well, doesn't being a visionary kind of take fun out of life because you know what's going to happen? But when you have a vision like I had after my marriage, where I went home and I looked at my house and I looked at my husband and it was like it wasn't there. And years later, many 22 decades later, I can look back on that vision and understand it now. Yeah, he's not there. I said to him at the time, I know who you are, but I don't have that deep emotional connection to you. Well, that's how I am with him now. So being a vision has its own unique challenges. And this book shows me how amazing of a vision that I have been gifted with, because I can go back and read like in the first culture. And there's just one or two little sentences that are the start of what I then went and took and went off and made into a unified field theory and maps of human consciousness and Einstein and all this stuff. It was in there. It started right there. And to me, that is just, it's so humbling and mind-blowing that I really don't have a lot of words for it except this deep appreciation for the fact that it's documented and I don't have to live in this crazy world alone. And that the two of them were there to see this, to witness it. I could never have done any of this alone. I could channel stuff, but it wouldn't have been as profound or as powerful. And the book, and now, especially now that we've updated it with our voices from 2020, now it's done. Now I can see the book was never really done until we came to this point on September 19th, 2020, with that voice. So I'm so grateful that they're there, because without them, I'd probably be dead.
How about you, Lily?
And we all say that with some regularity. Without the other two, we wouldn't be here anymore. And that, it sounds a little ominous, but in fact, it's really a wonderful place to be when you know that you have these two people who, I mean, we have a chronicle of our lives. We have this book that's only 3 months of our lives, and that's the part we wrote down, but we have this, well, Teresa and I talked about this one time, about to have a witness to your own life is a precious thing. And we all grew up thinking, you know, your witness would be your mate and they would be with you forever, because that's what we watched in, you know, well, for a while with our parents anyway. That's what our culture was saying. And we grew up and that didn't happen for any of the three of us. Not one of us has stayed with our mate throughout our lives, but we've stayed with each other. And so we have been the witness to 27 years of each other's lives. And that is an incredible thing. For me, what the book, I mean, the basic way I would say what the book is about is how to save your life. For me, that's all about self-responsibility leading to self-love. And, you know, we say self-love and, oh, isn't that just an easy way to, oh, it's so easy to say self-love. Yeah, I love myself. Oh my God. Self-love is the hardest thing I've ever had to learn in my life. And realizing that the way you get there is through self-responsibility. It's not about anything out there you think it's about. It's about learning who you are and taking responsibility for you, who you are. The good, the bad, and the ugly is all part of it. And through that process, and I've had these two at my side all this time, I figured out that God made me exactly the way I was supposed to be, and that my process is exactly what it was meant to be. And therefore, after all this time, I know it always will be exactly what it's meant to be. That doesn't make it always easy, but it makes it always worthwhile. And so it's how I've found peace in my life. I know who I am now. I know the bad stuff, and unfortunately for most of us, it's easier to acknowledge your bad stuff, and that's not easy. To acknowledge your good stuff, to acknowledge your divinity is so hard and so humbling. Barb started us out today talking about humility. It is so humbling to know that God made you this way and that God sits inside you and lives through you. And that's what your life is about. That's a lot to hold, but I've learned how to hold that. So that's what Diaries is about for me.
What does it mean? You guys talk about how God is in each and every one of us. What's the difference, or what is the why do we use God in all of us and spirituality? What is the difference between God and spirituality?
There is no separation.
There is no difference. That's what we've learned in all these years. It's who you are. It's who we are.
I think that growing up in a Baptist church in the South planted that seed of religion and what that was about. And when I was 13 years old and the preacher was preaching about whatever it was that scared me so badly that when they called for you to come down to give your life to Jesus, I was like, I did that out of fear. And the difference is now I don't have to go somewhere every Sunday to be with God. And I know that I am with God and with Jesus and with all of the great teachers. I know every single day. I feel it. I know they're there, but I don't have to go and call myself something, a particular name, and go to a particular place and be with particular people to have that experience, because it's just there every day, all day.